People got into debt because they wanted to buy things that they can't afford. Even small purchases eventually became, or unnecessary purchases, luxury purchases. The idea that you go to a store and suddenly somebody wants you to buy a bunch of things that you wouldn't normally pay for. You will find that older people, people who grew up during World War II or during the Great Depression, they do not like credit cards. They do not like debt. You probably have grandparents who buy cars with cash. Why? They don't like owing people money. You also have people who refuse to have credit cards. Credit cards are good and bad. Credit cards have a ability to be useful for building your credit, but they can get you in trouble real quick. I like to call credit cards evil cards because most people lack the discipline to be able to buy stuff with a credit card and pay it off like it should be. However, buying on credit is like taking out small loans. The thing here is you don't want too many of these small loans. Too many people get a credit card and they just think it's free money. And then they get stuck paying so much more for it than they should. Let's talk more about credit cards. Credit cards hook you. And they are, let's actually go back, they're so tempting for you to use them. When you get a credit card, like I said, you often get hooked on credit cards and then you can't get off them. So you got to be careful with them. I will just say this, tip number one today. If you have a credit card, everybody needs a credit card. That A means one. You don't need a pocket full of credit cards. My mom has like 20 credit cards. That is not good. Why? Because she pays so many payments that she literally doesn't have any money because she's paying credit cards and all their interest. So credit cards can be very, very bad if you let them get out of hand. But a good thing about credit cards is that you can use credit cards when you're out of town. They're safe. They're guaranteed. If someone steals your credit card information, you can call the credit card company up and say, hey, I didn't buy that stuff. That's not me. And they will forgive it. They'll put the money back in your account and they will go after the person who stole your credit card information. However, you can't go back to them like a year later and go, hey, somebody stole my card a year ago. That doesn't work. You got to be, like immediate on it. So, credit card companies are not going to let you scam them, but they are going to look into it and try to figure out who stole your card and try to prosecute them for using someone's credit card without their permission, which is illegal. So they're going to spend their time trying to find out who did use it. But it's protected. If you try to use your debit card from your checking account outside of town and someone gets a hold of that number, then you lose all your money. They can literally clean out your banking account, and the banks generally don't have any insurance or protection for that. So if someone gets a hold of your debit card information, that money is just gone. So anytime I go out of town or I'm buying stuff at a place I don't feel comfortable with, like I don't trust the people, or I'm going to have to give them a card. In other words, I hand them a card and they walk away with it like at a restaurant. I am going to want to use a credit card, not my debit card. Matter of fact, my debit card I generally leave at home and only use in rare occasions in places that I know that I can trust. So scammers are out there. Buyer beware. There are people out there trying to steal your credit card information and your debit card information. Debit cards are not protected. Credit cards have insurance. Remember that. So have a card. Why? I use them outside of town. Anytime I go someplace that's a little sketch, I use my credit card. That way I've got some insurance in case the person, taking my card to pay for dinner, steals the numbers and goes out on Amazon and buys a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to have to pay for it. So keep that in mind. Let's talk about how credit cards work. This video is the best video out there explaining it, and we'll just make a few comments after that about credit cards. So let's watch this video.
Everyone knows these plastic things called credit cards. They're fast, convenient, and they use percentages to make you feel good about giving money to credit card companies. Here's how they work. Everyone likes to buy stuff. Stuff costs money, but not everyone has all the money they need to buy all the stuff they want exactly when they want it. Credit card companies are lending you a certain amount of money to buy stuff now that you'll pay back later. That's called a line of credit, hence the word credit card. You agree that whatever you spend on that line of credit, you'll pay back in a certain amount of time, usually a month. At the end of the month, when it's time to pay up, credit card companies give you options to pay back what you owe to make things easy on you. You can pay it all back, or you can pay back a little. The catch is that the easier options actually make it harder to get rid of your debt. You actually end up paying more than you spent, way more. And that's exactly what credit card companies want. Consider this. Let's say you got a line of credit for $3,500. Let's say you pay for stuff with your credit card all month. A little here, a little there, a movie, some clothes, a meal, another movie, a new smartphone with the big screen and a 5-megapixel camera and a thing and a blah, blah, blah. The more you buy, the more you are using your line of credit. And by the end of the month, this is what you owe. Now, you have a choice. One, you can pay the whole thing off. You do this, it costs a lot, it feels bad, but the credit card is reset and you are free to live it up again, no fees, no charges, next month. Basically, you paid exactly what you spent. Two, the other option is to pay a little bit. You're letting the credit card company know that, hey, I can't give you all the money I owe, but here's a part of it. This is the minimum you can pay, which feels great because you're not losing a big chunk of money, but it doesn't get rid of your debt completely. In fact, it's how credit card companies make their money. Here's where percentages come in. If you just pay the minimum, you still have an outstanding balance that you owe this. Now, when the new month starts, and by the way, your credit line is not fully restored because you still owe money. Whatever your credit line is, minus your outstanding balance, that's how much money you can spend each month. Okay, back to our example. You've paid the minimum and it's a new month. A percentage of what you owe gets calculated. This is called interest, and it's simply a percentage of your outstanding balance. And at the end of this month, this interest gets added to what you owe. Now, you owe what you still owed last month, any new money that you spent, plus interest on all of that. And then again, you have the choice of how to pay it off. And for this illustration, we're going to assume that you max out your credit card every month. Let's say you pay the minimum again. A new month starts, you buy stuff, and at the end of the month, interest gets calculated again. And if you keep buying stuff and you keep paying the minimum, the interest will keep getting calculated and keep getting added, and all that extra money goes to the credit card companies. That's how they make their money. And that's how you can get stuck in a never-ending cycle of debt. But credit card companies aren't all bad. They are lending you the money. Even if you just pay off the minimum every month and never bought anything else, you'd pay a lot of interest, but you'd eventually pay off your debt. That's because the minimum payment is slightly more than the interest. But imagine you had a company that loaned you money, but where the interest was always more than your minimum payment. That's exactly what many companies that offer payday loans do. While credit card interest rates are like 11 or 24%, payday loans often have interest rates around 200 or 400%. With interest rates that high, debt can easily get out of control really fast. Stay away from companies that offer quick cash loans because their ridiculously high interest rates can trap you in a cycle of never-ending debt. 2. In the eyes of a credit card company, someone who pays off all their debt every month and never pays a late fee, that person is called a deadbeat. Because the credit card companies are not making any money off of that person. When it comes to credit cards, you want to be a deadbeat. So, pay back everything you owe and pay it back on time.
Okay. Yeah, you definitely want to be a deadbeat. So let's talk about credit cards and things that you need to know about them. First and foremost, recognize that a credit card is not a good way to spend money. However, They do provide you protection, like I already told you. So when you're out and about in the world and you feel like you're in an area that you can't trust, especially if you're going to have to give your credit card to someone you don't know, like at a restaurant when they come and you pay the bill and they walk away with your credit card, you don't see what they're doing with that credit card. That's a chance for them to steal your information. You do not want to use your debit card for that. Credit cards have protection built in. They have insurance. So you can call up the credit card company and say, hey, I didn't do this. Um, and they will go after the people who stole your credit card information. And they'll give you your money back. So that's really, really important to remember. I also use my credit card because I travel a lot. Anytime I travel out of town on business or whatever, I'm going to want to use a credit card, not my banking information. So that's another thing. Also, payday loans. I want to just pick on that one for just a second here. Payday loans are pure evil. They prey upon the most vulnerable parts of our community economically. Most people who go to a payday loan situation are people who fall into what is considered below middle class level. So they are people who are generally not making a lot of money to begin with, and they generally don't have the education in order to understand that payday loans are really, really bad. And they trap people into a cycle of debt. They go to them because they have an emergency and they didn't have a savings or something like that to cover an engine explosion for their car, but they've got to go to work, they've got to drive, and they need money now to fix the car or they're going to lose their job, and so forth and so on. These companies know that people that go to payday loans have nowhere else to turn, or they don't understand how bad these things are. So stay away from payday loans. Anytime you see one of those, honestly, I believe they ought to be outlawed because they take advantage of people's gullibility and they take advantage of people who are on the lower end of the financial spectrum. So we're talking about people who can't afford um, the luxuries that others want or have. So they're preying. They're just bad. Stay away from them. And if you see somebody who's involved with one, try to talk them out of doing it. It is honestly, it's better to borrow money from a friend or a family member than it is to. And I know that is just a terrible idea as well, but that is better than going to a payday loan place. These people really, really are not good. So stay away from them. Also, I want to point out that you want to watch out for certain other types of cards. My second hated type of credit card is the store credit card. Store credit cards are truly evil because they prey upon people in weak moments when they are doing impulse buying. These are when you go into a place, you didn't plan on buying a bunch of stuff, you just planned on going in and getting one or two things, and then you go up to the cash register, and I know that everybody's seen this happen where they go up to you and you're getting ready to pay out, you're going to buy your new shirt and your new pants or whatever, and you're at the store and they go up there and go, do you have one of our store cards? They are truly, if you apply today, we'll take 20% off your entire purchase. They do this to get you to fill out the application. Generally speaking, unless you have horrible credit, they are going to give you a credit card. The problem with these credit cards is store credit cards generally have 25% or higher interest rates. These are high interest rate loans. And yes, you get 20% off your purchase today. And you suddenly think to yourself, well, I can't just buy a shirt. Now I've got more money. I was only going to spend $100, but now my bill's only going to be $60 or $80. Well, I can go back and pick up another pair of pants or another shirt. And then before you know it, you've bought $200 or $300 on clothing or whatever it is that you're buying that you weren't planning on. So what ends up happening is when you finally get the bill which, by the way, comes usually about 1 or 2 days after the 30-day mark. So it's already calculated interest back on it. And if you've got 30% interest on it, they gave you 20% off when you bought the clothes. But now when you get the bill, they've added 30% back onto it. You now owe more on the clothes than you would have if you had not gotten the card. And they convinced you to buy more clothes. Oh yeah, you can go get another shirt or another pair of pants with the savings that you're getting today. And they try to make it all positive and spin. What ends up happening is before you know it, you have bought more clothing than you can afford. Thus, you can't pay it back or whatever the item is. I had a Dick's Sporting Goods card. I bought a kayak with it, and it saved me 20%. But when I got the bill, they added 25% back to the bill. I ended up owing 5% more on the kayak that I bought than what I had originally would have paid if I just paid cash for it. And that ended up being because I couldn't pay it off because I didn't have that money, and because I spent the money that I was going to spend on a kayak on something else. Now I didn't have enough money to pay off the kayak, so then I had to go into sort of a payment plan situation. So a year later, I'm adding it up, and a $500 kayak cost me $900 because of all the interest they added on it. So, watch out. Stay away from store credit cards. I know it's hard. It's embarrassing. They look at you like you're crazy when they go, "Do you have one of our credit cards?" And you go, "No, I do not. Would you like to apply for one?" And you say no. And they look at you, but you're going to save 20% and you're going to become a member of our club and you're going to get these type of rebates and you're going to get coupons every month or real dollars or whatever it is that they give. And they try to make it sound really, really cool. And what it is a scam. It is a scam in order to convince you to get their card and get into this cycle of debt where they can make more money. I also want to remind you that the people at these stores that are giving these cards, they get a bonus for every person they convince to sign up. So they're not doing it because they're trying to save you money. They're doing it because they're trying to make more money. Okay? The company's trying to make more money off of you and your bad decisions, and they are trying to make more money on their paycheck. Okay, so stay away. It's like going to the car dealership and paying for all the extra insurances and stuff that they can give you. That's incredibly foolish. The only insurance you should get on a car is gap coverage, and that's just because in case you're in an accident, it covers the rest of your loan. We'll talk about that later. But you do not need the special secret undercoating on your car. Your car came with undercoating. You don't need an extra undercoating. By the way, it certainly shouldn't cost $2,000 onto the price of the car to get the undercoating or the Scotch-free fabric protector. Yeah, go out and buy a $5 can of Scotch Guard and spray your own car. It's $5. It doesn't cost $10,000. They're not giving you some kind of super formula protection that, your kid's spit up isn't going to stick to your seats. So watch out for scams. These companies are trying to sell you extras. And store credit cards, stay away from them. They are evil. It sounds crazy to pass up on 20% off your purchase today, but it's not real. Okay, so stay away from them. Everybody has these cards. They are pure evil. The only thing worse than them are the payday loans. Now, credit cards. Shop around. Everybody needs a credit card. A credit card. Remember that. A credit card. How many credit cards? One credit card. You don't need 15. One credit card. All right. You are going to want to figure out what the annual percentage rate is. That's the amount of interest they're going to charge you if you don't pay off your loan. They're going to tell you need to pay close attention to what the grace period is. Let's say your credit card payment is due on the 5th of every month. Well, a grace period is how many days after that will they consider your payment not late. Usually it's 7 to 10 days. However, I have seen credit cards with only a 5-day grace period. You need to know, because what if you mail the check in on the 5th? Well, it may take 5 days for it to get there. You don't want the payment to arrive late. Or what if you forget? You're out of town on vacation. I'll pay it when I get home. You get home, you forget about it because you missed your payment, and you absent-minded. Then you go online and go, oh my goodness, it's the 12th, and you go online. Well, it's only 7 days late. Well, wah wah. It was a 5-day grace period. Now you're going to get a late fee. Watch out for that. So make sure you know what the grace period is on your card. How many days do you have after the date it's due for it to still be considered on time? You do not want to pay your credit cards late. The fees will kill you. Does your credit card have annual fees? Some credit cards can give you benefits and bonuses, but they charge you for a lot of those benefits. It may not be a lot. It may only be like $25 a year, but you need to know that they're going to charge you $25 a year in order to get 15% off at the gas station every single time you fill up. Yes, if you buy a lot of gas and you travel a lot, it's well worth the $25 membership in order to get that 15% off your gas pump purchases, because you will spend a lot more money in gas than you will $25. So, that might be something else. Also, transaction fees. Do they charge you every time you transfer bills onto your credit card, or every time you use it? Do they charge you a percentage? You need to know. You want to see transactions fees at zero. Also, you want to make sure that how are they calculating your monthly finance charges? Are they doing it daily? A lot of credit cards do daily finance charging, where they tell you how much the percentage is per day. It may be 25% a year, but they're charging you 0.1116% every single day. The problem with this is when you're trying to pay it off, because the day you pay it off, by the time they process it, they've already added 3 or 4 days worth of interest onto it. So the amount that you set in to pay off the debt is no longer the amount that you pay off. If they do it monthly, then you have 30 days to pay off that amount, and it actually be zeroed out. I can't begin to tell you how many times I thought I paid off a credit card just to find out that I owed them like $3. And then by the time I figured out that I owed them $3, that $3 had turned into $9. And then it was the whole hassle of trying to pay it off. So you have to send them extra money. So keep that in mind. All right. Watch out for your credit limits. Credit limits should not be more than you can afford a month. You should not have a credit limit higher than what you make a month. So if you make $5,000 a month, you don't need a credit card with a $10,000 limit. Why? Because there's no way for you to pay it off if you max it out. So keep that in mind. Never have a credit card with a higher limit than you can afford to pay off in a single month. I highly suggest that you have a credit card no higher than $2,000. Why? Well, most of the things that are going to come up in your life that you're going to need a credit card for are going to be less than $2,000. If you put more than $2,000 on a credit card, then you can't afford to pay it off. So keep that in mind. If you only make $500 a month, you do not need a $1,000 credit card. You need a credit card with like a $200 limit. Why? Well, because you can't afford to pay it off. So keep that in mind. And if a credit card company raises your credit limit, and they raise it to some unusual number that you can't afford, it's okay to call them and say, no, 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 no. Put that limit back down. Because you may be like me, too tempted to use it. Oh, I've got $10,000 worth of credit. I can buy a motorcycle. Yeah, I don't need to be on a motorcycle. I'm like a giant weeble wobble. I'll just get hurt. And then who'll pay that credit card bill? So, be careful. Credit cards are dangerous if you don't have self-control. Also, recognize what card you're getting. Some cards are more widely accepted than others. Visa and MasterCard are widely accepted throughout the world. However, American Express is a good close third, but I have been places that don't accept American Express. And there's other types of cards out there as well. Be wary of them. You're getting into a gray area. Especially stay away from store cards. You don't need them. You don't want them. Just spend the money you went in there to spend and be happy with what you have. Okay. Also, check out what your cards offer you as far as services and features. I told you earlier that I like to travel. One of my credit cards helps me earn points to get free stays in their hotels. I have an IHG card. IHG owns Holiday Inns and Resorts. Because of this, when I stay at a Holiday Inn, sometimes I can stay for free if I've used that credit card enough. I'll earn points and can win a trip to stay at the beach for a couple nights or a weekend. I stayed in a wonderful resort that was within their packages last year in Asheville for a weekend. I didn't have to pay a dime. I also went to Boone this past year and stayed in one of their resorts there. And because I was a member, I got to stay in the VIP hotel suites, which were much, much nicer than the ones they normally rent. It had an actual kitchen in it, and it was on the top floor, so I don't have to listen to people with kids running across the ceiling all night. And I had a private elevator access where I didn't have to ride the elevator with everybody else in the building. Why? Because I'm a member. So, check out what features. Maybe travel is something. Maybe you like to fly. Some credit cards help you earn flyer points where you can actually get a plane ticket for free or get upgraded from coach to first class. Once again, you're in the club. But make sure your card is working for you and you are not working for your card. Last but not least, always try to be a deadbeat. Remember the deadbeat, the person who pays off every single month? If you pay off your credit card every single month, you never pay them any interest. And because you have a credit card that you pay off every single month, it will seriously improve your credit score. Credit score, you say? What is a credit score? Tomorrow we're going to talk about credit scores and why they are so important. And I'm going to tell you how getting a credit card and building your credit score is a good thing. Credit cards are good and bad. They have good things that are good about them. Things like you can use them in places that you don't feel comfortable using your banking information. Remember, if you're out of town, don't use your debit card. Use a credit card. They have insurance. They will protect you. 2, don't get a store card. 3, stay away from payday loans. Awful bad ideas, okay? Make sure your credit card is working for you, all right? And last but not least, try to be a deadbeat. If you're a deadbeat, then you are an excellent credit card holder. A person who knows how to use their credit wisely. Stay away from the bad, focus on the good, and make sure your credit card works for you, not you working for your credit card. Okay? And last thing I want you to remember is your percentage rate. When you guys, since you don't have any credit, you're going to pay a lot in percentage rates. Remember, occasionally you can call up your credit card company and say, hey, I've been a good person and I pay my bills regularly. I've got good credit. I believe I deserve a lower interest rate. There's no harm in asking to see if they will lower your interest rate. All right, guys, I have talked way too much about credit cards, but credit cards are exciting. They're wonderful. They're awesome. They're also terrible. They're bad, and they can destroy you. Be careful. Just make sure you guys know the rules. And we'll talk tomorrow about your credit score. Talk to you later. Bye.